What if I told you that the very thing billions of people worship, live by, and sometimes even die for was never really about truth, but about control? Imagine this. Long before governments, laws, or written constitutions, there was only one thing powerful enough to unite tribes and silence rebels. It wasn't a king. It wasn't a sword. It was an invisible force, an idea, wrapped in rituals, sealed in holy texts, and preached as the Word of God. From the towering pyramids of Egypt, where pharaohs claimed to be living gods, to the grand cathedrals of medieval Europe, where priests held more power than kings, religion has shaped the destiny of nations, commanded armies, and rewritten history. But here's the uncomfortable question no one dares to ask. Was religion created to guide humanity toward light, or to govern it in darkness? Is it a spiritual compass, or history's most effective tool of obedience? Let's rewind time, not a few centuries, but nearly 10,000 years back, to a world untouched by temples, scriptures, or organized faiths. Early humans lived close to the earth. They didn't worship gods sitting in the sky. They bowed to the sun, which gave life. They feared the rain, which could drown it. They revered animals, not because they were symbols, but because they were survival. To them, every rustle in the dark, every thunderclap in the sky, every eclipse was a message from something greater, but unknown. Life was fragile, death was sudden, and the world wild, mysterious, and terrifying. But then, something changed. Among the tribe, a few stood apart. The storytellers, the healers, the ones who claimed to understand what others couldn't. They began to speak on behalf of the unknown. A lightning bolt wasn't just nature. It was a punishment from the heavens. A drought wasn't just weather. It was the gods' disapproval. And slowly, power shifted, not to the strongest hunter, but to the one who claimed they could speak with gods. Thus began a new kind of hierarchy, not ruled by muscle, but by mystery. Fear of the unknown became obedience to the divine, and those who could interpret the signs held the keys to both truth and power. As human tribes evolved into villages, villages into cities, and cities into empires, the world became more complex, and so did the rules to manage it. Societies needed order, but how do you convince thousands of strangers to obey, to stay in line, to accept their place? The answer was belief. Religion, once fluid and tribal, became structured and centralized. Now there were temples, texts, rituals, and most importantly, laws. Not man-made laws, but divine commandments. If you disobeyed the priest, you weren't just breaking a rule, you were defying God himself. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh wasn't just a ruler, he was a god. His words weren't to be debated, they were sacred. In medieval Europe, kings claimed to rule by divine right. Their crown wasn't just given by people, it was sanctioned by heaven. To question the king was to question God, and that was heresy, often punishable by death. Across civilizations, this pattern repeated. Gods legitimized power, and power protected the gods. Religion became a double-edged sword, a source of unity, and a tool of control. It was the invisible thread that stitched empires together, but also the invisible chain that bound minds and bodies. And for the rulers, it was genius, because the greatest kind of control is the kind people never question. As religion evolved, it mastered something that no empire, no sword, no king could ever fully control: the human mind. Because you see, the most powerful kind of fear isn't of death. It's of what might happen after death. The fear of eternal punishment, of burning in hell, being judged, cast out, alone and tortured. Not for minutes, not for years, but for all eternity. That kind of fear, it seeps into your soul. It doesn't need chains or cages, because it makes people chain themselves. What kings couldn't enforce through violence, the church could enforce through guilt. What soldiers couldn't extract with force, religion could extract with confession. People didn't need police watching them. They became their own jailers, watching their every thought, questioning their every desire, shaming themselves into submission. They were told, think impure thoughts? That's a sin. Doubt the faith? That's a sin. Skip prayer? That too is a sin. So they lined up to confess. They paid tithes, a tax dressed as devotion. They followed rules they never wrote. Why? Because they were told the consequences wouldn't come in this life, but in the next. And when punishment is invisible and justice is eternal, who dares rebel? We may live in a world of science, reason, and democracy, but peel back the layers, and you'll see religion and power are still deeply intertwined. Politicians still invoke the name of God in their speeches, not to preach faith, but to claim authority, to make their policies feel sacred, to turn their words into commandments. Across continents, leaders still use religion to divide and rally, to justify wars, to silence opposition, and to label enemies as unholy. And yet, billions around the world still live by texts written centuries ago, texts born in deserts, forests, and ancient empires, for a world that no longer exists. But here's the haunting question. What happens when these belief systems, which once gave meaning, start punishing those who question? When asking why becomes rebellion. When logic is labeled blasphemy. When blind obedience is praised. Is that still spiritual guidance? Or is it something else entirely? Is it faith, or is it social engineering? A structure designed not to uplift souls, but to manage behavior, to mold minds, to maintain control. Because when fear becomes worship, and questions become sins, you're no longer seeking the divine, you're just following the script. Let's be clear, religion, for countless people, isn't about power or politics. It's about peace. It's about belonging. It's about finding light in the darkest of times, and hope when the world feels hopeless. Faith has built communities, healed broken souls, and inspired acts of compassion that no law could ever command. But still, the question must be asked. When we look at history, at the wars, the oppression, the silence imposed in the name of the divine, we have to wonder, did religion begin as a spiritual search for truth? Or was it shaped carefully, intentionally, to create order, obedience, and control? Was it a flame lit to guide humanity forward? Or a leash designed to keep it in line? The uncomfortable truth is, maybe it was both. Maybe it offered light, but also cast shadows. Maybe it gave people purpose, but only within the lines it drew for them. And maybe that's what makes religion so enduring, and dangerous, and beautiful, all at once. A force powerful enough to connect souls across time and space, and powerful enough to keep them chained too. In the end, the real question isn't just about religion. It's about us. Do we seek truth or comfort? Do we follow because we believe, or because we're afraid not to? If this made you think, even for a moment, share it, question it, and never stop seeking. So now, we leave the question with you. What do you believe? Is religion humanity's greatest gift, or its most sophisticated system of control? Is it a doorway to the divine, or a mirror reflecting our need for order, meaning, and belonging? We've explored the evidence. We've asked the hard questions, but the real answer, it lives inside you. Let us know what you think in the comments.